A man is filming Rory McIlroy on his phone, screaming at him to hit it in the bunker. 10 seconds later, that same man is the one who can't believe what just happened. This isn't a rumor, it's on video. Saturday at Shinnecock Hills, a fan in the front row decided the best use of his US Open ticket was to scream, "Bunker, get in the bunker," at a 6-time major champion mid-swing. Phone up, obviously hoping to go viral. He got his wish, just not the way he planned it. Because McIlroy didn't yell back, he didn't say a single word. He looked the guy dead in the eye, put both hands out in front of his own stomach, and made it very clear what he thought of him. No audio needed. The crowd around the guy lost it laughing at him, not with him.
Here's the number that matters. This is the third major championship in a row where Rory McIlroy has had to deal with a hostile crowd. Bethpage last year, the PGA Championship last month, now Shinnecock. 3 in a row. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern, and it says something about where golf fandom is right now. Personally, I think the gesture was the least interesting part of the story. The interesting part is why it keeps happening to him specifically, and why the people running these tournaments haven't fixed something the Masters fixed years ago. Do you think McIlroy was right to clap back, or should he have just ignored it? Tell me in the comments. And stick around, because later in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what McIlroy said about this week that never made a single headline. And it's a lot more honest than anything he did on that tee box. Let's set the scene, because Shinnecock this week wasn't just rough on McIlroy, it was rough on everybody wearing a bib. Wyndham Clark, the guy who actually won the thing, got heckled for 5 straight hours in the final round. Not one bad moment, 5 hours. Fans cheering when his approach shots rolled off the green, fans cheering his bogeys. An American, a past US Open champion, trying to win his national championship, getting treated like the villain in his own house. So when people say, oh, McIlroy's just too sensitive, look at what Clark went through on the same golf course, same week. This isn't a McIlroy problem, this is a Shinnecock problem, maybe a bigger tournament problem. And here's the thing nobody's connecting. Every one of these incidents has a phone in the frame. The Bethpage Heckler last year, filming. The PGA Championship Heckler last month, filming. The Shinnecock Heckler, filming. These aren't drunk guys losing their minds in the moment anymore. Some of these people are showing up with content in mind. They want the clip, they want the reaction. And the more players react, the more it gets encouraged. Rory has been dealing with this rotation of hostility for over a year now, and Saturday's session wasn't really new. It was the release valve finally popping. But none of that compares to what he actually said about it once the camera stopped rolling. That's coming up. Here's what gets buried under a viral gesture clip. This was, by any measure, one of the worst weeks of McIlroy's year. Reigning Masters champion, 6 majors on the resume, a player who came into Shinnecock with real expectations, and instead he shot himself out of contention with a back 9 collapse that had him talking to himself out loud on the course, telling himself to go home after one particularly ugly mistake. That's not me speculating, that's on the broadcast. He finished tied for 32nd. After the round, reporters asked him to sum up the week, and this is the part that never made a headline because it's not funny and it's not a gesture. It's just honest. McIlroy said, "I think Shinnecock won the battle over me at this point." 10 words. No spin, no excuse making, no blaming the crowd. A 6-time major winner admitting the golf course simply beat him. Does that kind of honesty make you respect him more? Or does the "course beat me" sounds like a cop-out from a guy who choked the back 9? Drop your take below. Think about that for a second from his side. You've spent the entire week getting screamed at every time you tee off. You're mentally already fighting a crowd that wants you to fail. And on top of that, you're also fighting a golf course that's historically one of the hardest setups in America. 2 fronts at once. Most guys crack under one of those. He was dealing with both simultaneously and still had it together enough to walk off that tee box and land a gesture that made an entire grandstand laugh at the guy who started it. That's not the reaction of someone who's rattled. That's someone who's been through this enough times to know exactly how to shut it down, without giving the tour, the cameras, or the heckler himself a single soundbite to work with. So which is it? Is McIlroy the problem for engaging with hecklers at all? Or is he the only one in this story who actually handled himself well? And just when you think this is a one-off incident, wait until you hear what the actual difference is between a US Open crowd and a Masters crowd. Because it's not the fans, it's a rule. And it's the part of this story nobody's talking about. Here's the reveal. Every single heckler moment we just talked about, Bethpage, the PGA Championship, Shinnecock, has one thing in common. A phone in someone's hand, recording, in the gallery, close enough to shout directly at a player mid-shot. Now go to the Masters. Augusta National has banned phones from the grounds for decades. Zero incidents like this. Not one viral Heckler clip. Not one player talking himself down mid-round because a guy with a camera decided he wanted engagement. That's not a coincidence. Golf reporters have straight up asked, out loud, in print, why the USGA can't get Shinnecock right the way Augusta gets the Masters right. And the honest answer is, Augusta made a choice years ago that other majors still haven't made. No phones means no incentive to be the loudest, most disruptive person in the gallery because there's no camera there to reward you for it.
The US Open wants the same prestige as the Masters, the tradition, the difficulty, the history, but it hasn't made the one structural change that would actually protect its players from moments exactly like this one. So when McIlroy makes a gesture at a heckler, or Wyndham Clark grinds through 5 hours of jeering to win his national championship, that's not really a story about two players having a bad week with a rude fan. It's a symptom of a tournament that lets everyone bring a recording device onto a golf course and hasn't figured out what that's doing to the product on the field. Should every major ban phones the way Augusta does, or is that overkill for 3 incidents across 2 years? Comment below. I actually want to hear the case against it too. Now, plenty of golf fans watching this are going to say McIlroy needs thicker skin. Fair pushback, honestly. Heckling has been part of sports forever. Baseball fans have been screaming at outfielders for 100 years. Basketball fans sit courtside specifically to get in a guy's head. Golf has always prided itself on being different, quiet, respectful, the gentleman's game, but that reputation was arguably always a little bit of a myth outside of Augusta's gates anyway.
There's a real argument that professional athletes making tens of millions of dollars should be able to absorb one guy yelling about a bunker without it becoming a 3-minute segment on a golf YouTube channel. I'm not going to pretend that argument doesn't have teeth. But here's where it falls apart for me. This isn't one guy at one event anymore. It's 3 majors in a row, each with someone filming specifically to bait a reaction they can post. That's a different animal than a heckler yelling from the cheap seats. That's targeted content farming, using a professional athlete as the raw material. And the tours have been slow to even acknowledge it's a trend, let alone do anything about it. Put yourself in his shoes for a second. Every tee box for an entire season, you don't know if the guy in row 1 is a fan or a content creator looking for a moment at your expense. That wears on a person, even one making millions.
This doesn't go away after Shinnecock. McIlroy's already confirmed he's skipping next week's event, heading back across the Atlantic to get ready for the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale next month, a tournament with its own massive, loud, whiskey-fueled galleries that are historically some of the rowdiest in the sport. If the pattern holds, this conversation restarts in 4 weeks, on a different continent, with a different crowd, and the same open question the USGA still hasn't answered. What actually changes after a moment like this goes viral? Historically, at these events? Nothing. No new policy. No statement. The clip trends for 48 hours, and then everyone moves on until the next one. That's the actual story here, not the gesture, the fact that nothing follows it. Step back from Rory McIlroy for a second, because this was never really about him. He's just the guy the camera happened to catch this time.
Every major now has the exact same exposure. Professional athletes, tight ropes, phones everywhere, and a business model that benefits when moments like this go viral, whether the tour wants to admit that quiet part out loud or not. The people running these events get the engagement, the highlight packages, the "did you see what happened at the US Open" headlines. The players get the actual consequence of playing a mentally brutal sport in front of a crowd that some percentage of the time isn't there to watch golf at all. Is this a McIlroy problem, a Shinnecock problem, or a golf problem? I genuinely think it's the third one, and I don't think the next major changes that. If Royal Birkdale gives us the same story next month, you'll know I called it here first. Subscribe if you want the breakdown the second it happens again, because at this rate, it's not a question of if, just when.